Most men think they fall in love with women. They don't. They fall in love with the mask they project onto her face, a reflection of their unmet needs, unresolved pain, and spiritual longing. Carl Jung didn't just understand this, he predicted it. What he uncovered wasn't merely psychological, it was spiritual warfare, a battle between illusion and truth, between the outer feminine and the inner shadow. This isn't about hate. It's not about blaming women. It's about awakening men to the myths they inherit and the fantasies that quietly destroy them. This video isn't therapy, it's confrontation. The kind that splits you open, shatters the narrative, and forces you to ask, who am I without the mask she gave me to wear? You were taught that love would save you, that if you were good enough, kind enough, strong enough, she would appear. And when she did, your pain would vanish. But that story is not love. It is longing weaponized by culture. You weren't trained to love a woman. You were trained to worship an illusion. And illusions, when worshipped, become prisons. You saw her as a prize, a rescue boat, a final destination. You were never taught to ask what you were bringing to the table, only how to be worthy of her arrival. You were trained to outsource your validation to her gaze. But when your sense of worth is contingent upon being chosen, you are not loving, you are bargaining. And here's the haunting part. The more you chase the illusion, the more disconnected from yourself you become. It's not the loss of the woman that breaks you. It's the realization that you never knew who you were without her gaze. That's why it hurts so deeply. That's why you feel hollow, because your identity wasn't built. It was borrowed. Stay to the end, because if you don't see through the illusion now, you'll keep repeating the pattern until it breaks you. Carl Jung introduced the concept of the anima, the unconscious feminine within every man. Not just a metaphor, but a psychic force, alive, active, and powerful. The anima isn't your partner. She's not your girlfriend. She's the voice in your mind whispering what love should feel like, what beauty should look like, and what approval from a woman means about you. She is every Disney princess you fell for before puberty. Every pop song lyric that told you her love would make you whole. Every movie where the guy wins the girl and suddenly finds his purpose. That's the anima, the projected feminine ideal that you never question. She comes from your earliest emotional imprints, your mother's touch, your teacher's praise, the absence of affection in key moments. She is built from your longing to be nurtured, to be seen, to be enough. And she hides in plain sight, in crushes, obsessions, codependence. She speaks in fantasies and clings to ideals. But she is not evil. She is unintegrated. She is the child's dream of love masquerading as adult desire. When she is unconscious, she drives your every romantic decision. You don't recognize women. You recognize symbols. She whispers to you that if you can just win her, all will be well. The inner emptiness will disappear. You will finally become a man. When unintegrated, the anima doesn't guide you. She haunts you. She turns your romantic life into a never-ending search for completion. You don't date women. You date your mother wound. You don't fall for her. You fall for the story your inner anima has written about her. You fall in love with echoes of nurturing, promises of healing, and the illusion that she can fix what you refuse to confront. You crave her attention like oxygen. Her validation becomes your mirror. Her affection becomes the currency of your self-worth. And that, Jung warned, is a possession, because she's not loving you. She's loving the version you created to please her, and you, in turn, are not loving her. You're loving the way she temporarily silences your inner emptiness. The anima, when unseen, becomes a seductress. She shows up in every woman you meet, whispering that maybe this one, this time, will fix the ache in your soul. But she won't. She can't, because she isn't real. Not yet. Not until you make her conscious. To integrate her, you must see her clearly, not as a romantic savior, but as a voice within your psyche. She is a part of you that seeks union, yes, but not through dependency, through awareness. Only when you stop chasing her outside yourself can you begin to relate to women, not as projections, but as people. She is not your enemy, but she becomes one when you let her lead your life from the shadows. What is the feminine mask? It's the projection of everything you believe a woman should be: nurturing, soft, validating, endlessly loving. But that image isn't hers. It's yours. You put it on her. The feminine mask is not about her personality. It's about your fantasy. The woman you imagine will complete you is not a woman at all. She's a mirror, polished with your hopes, polished with your childhood wounds, polished with every unmet need you refuse to confront. You're not in love with her. You're in love with who you become when she looks at you with approval. The feminine mask is a psychological crutch that allows you to avoid growth. Instead of facing your fears of inadequacy, you chase the high of being desired. Instead of confronting your loneliness, you call it romance. But real love does not emerge from fantasy. It emerges from wholeness. And as long as you need a woman to complete you, you will never truly love her. You will use her as a mirror. And because it's your projection, you fall in love with yourself. The idealized part of you that wants to be held, to be seen, to be chosen. That's why breakups hurt so much. You're not just losing her, you're losing the mirror. The mask is seductive because it offers safety, a fantasy of unconditional love, of redemption, of finally being enough. But the mask is a lie. It turns real women into symbols, and it turns you into a beggar, pleading for attention, sacrificing your voice, and shape-shifting into what you think she wants. And the worst part? She senses it. Women can feel when they're not being seen for who they are. They know when they're being projected onto, and eventually they recoil. Not because they don't care, but because they weren't made to carry the weight of your spiritual neglect. You didn't fall in love with her, you fell in love with the mask. And when she took it off, when she became real, you blamed her for being human. The feminine mask is not only false, it is dangerous, because it prevents authentic intimacy. It tricks you into thinking you are close, when in reality, you are performing. She cannot know you if you are playing a role, and you cannot know her if you are chasing a myth. The only way out of this illusion is to remove the mask yourself, to see her clearly, and in doing so, to finally see yourself. Only then can love, real love, begin. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Most men call their heartbreak fate. They say they were betrayed, misunderstood, unloved. But what they don't say, what they can't face, is that they handed over their sovereignty the moment they let a woman define their worth. You see, dependence isn't just financial or physical, It's emotional, it's spiritual. And the man who needs a woman to validate his manhood will always be ruled by her presence or by her absence. You become agreeable, predictable, safe, but not real. You hide your anger. You bury your ambition. You silence your standards. Because in your mind, being chosen is more important than being whole. That is the shadow, the part of you that fears being alone more than it fears being false. The part that believes love must be earned by becoming small, soft, and unthreatening. The part that fears his own masculine edge because it might make her leave. But here's the truth. She cannot leave the real you if she never met him. And until you confront that shadow, you'll keep dressing it up in romance, calling it love, and wondering why she doesn't respect you. You'll blame her withdrawal, her confusion, her indifference. But the collapse began when you collapsed into her. She didn't ask for your dependence. You offered it, hoping to be kept. But no woman can protect a man from the consequences of abandoning himself. And this shadow doesn't just haunt your relationships, it haunts your mission. A man addicted to approval loses his fire. He becomes cautious instead of bold, pleasing instead of purposeful. He drifts through life asking, "Am I good enough?" instead of declaring, "This is who I am." Until that changes, every woman you chase will be a substitute for self-respect, and every heartbreak will feel like identity death, because your identity was never yours to begin with. Real love begins the moment you can stand alone, not in bitterness, not in rebellion, but in reverence for your own truth. Then, and only then, can you invite a woman into your life, not to complete it, but to witness it. Women don't take power, men give it. And they give it not because women demand it, but because they don't know where their own power comes from. Carl Jung didn't say to reject the feminine. He said to integrate it, to face it, to become conscious of how it moves through you, controls you, deceives you. When you project your anima onto a woman, you are no longer relating to her as a person. You are relating to her as a mirror. And mirrors don't give love. They reflect. She can only meet you as deeply as you've met yourself. And if you've only met the version of you that wants to be desired, then that's the only man she sees. True sovereignty isn't about domination. It's not about going your own way, ghosting women, or winning power games. It's about integration. It's about standing in front of the feminine, internally and externally, without flinching. A sovereign man doesn't need her to see him because he already sees himself. He doesn't collapse in the face of her withdrawal. He doesn't rage at her rejection. He doesn't beg for her approval because his sense of self is rooted in something deeper than the dynamics of attraction. It is rooted in purpose, in vision, in spiritual clarity. And that clarity makes him magnetic, not to every woman, but to the right ones. Not because he is flashy, but because he is grounded. Because when a man stands in his own authority, he creates a new kind of relationship, not of roles, but of reverence. The sovereign man does not fear the feminine. He honors her, but he does not bow to her moods or betray himself for her comfort. He knows that love without self-respect is slavery dressed in sentiment. To be sovereign is to be whole, to lead yourself, to stop outsourcing your inner compass to the ever-changing weather of female approval. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's what women crave even when they protest. Not control, but containment. A man who can hold his center no matter what. That is the path Jung pointed toward. Not rebellion, not resentment, but integration, wholeness. The kind of masculinity that doesn't just attract, it transforms. And it begins the moment you stop asking for permission to exist. So, how do you break the spell? First, you must be willing to face the pain of letting go of the fantasy. This is not easy. It feels like grief because it is. You are grieving the illusion of salvation. You are burying the myth that someone else can complete you. And in its place, you are planting something terrifying and liberating. Personal responsibility. Step 1. Name the mask. This means you need to clearly identify the role you've cast her in. Is she your healer, your redeemer, your mother in disguise? Is she the muse that will unlock your genius? Ask yourself, what archetype are you chasing in her? And why? Until you consciously name the mask, it will keep running your life from the shadows. It will lure you into relationships built on fantasy. It will convince you that longing is the same thing as love. It's not. Step 2. Reclaim your shadow. The anima thrives in unintegrated men, men who are afraid of their own emotional bodies, who repress their pain, who outsource their worth. The woman, then, becomes a medic for wounds you refuse to face. But here's the truth. She is not your mother. She is not your mirror. She is not your therapist. You must take radical ownership of your internal landscape. If you feel unworthy, own it. If you are afraid of abandonment, name it. If you fear being unseen, look in the mirror and see yourself first. Your pain is not your fault, but your healing is your job. Step 3. Deconstruct the fantasy. This is the hardest part. Ask yourself, who is she really? Strip away the projection. Strip away the poetry, the longing, the narrative that she is different. Can you love her not for who she could be, but for who she actually is? Can you sit with her flaws without trying to fix her? Can you remain grounded when she triggers your deepest insecurities? That is the test. When you remove the mask and still choose to stay, that's love. But if all that remains is resentment, bitterness, or boredom, then you were never in love. You were in need. Real love cannot exist in the presence of fantasy. It must be born in truth. And truth begins with seeing clearly. Step 4. Rebuild your inner structure. Become the man who no longer needs to be chosen. Become the man who chooses himself first. This means building a life that isn't centered around being desired. It means reconnecting with your purpose, your values, your mission. It means turning inward before you reach outward. It means learning to sit with your own discomfort without rushing to sedate it with her affection. Because when you can sit in your own fire and not flinch, that is when you become a man no mask can manipulate. You were never meant to worship the feminine. You were meant to integrate it. You are not here to chase, to impress, to contort. You are here to wake up, to remove the blindfold, to see women as they are, and yourself as you've always been beneath the illusion. Jung didn't tell us to demonize women. He told us to stop projecting our unconscious onto them. Because as long as the anima lives in the shadows, she will possess your romantic life, turning every attraction into addiction, every desire into delusion. You think you've been falling in love, but what you've really been doing is falling into a trance. So it's time to wake up. Stop asking if she'll love you. Ask instead, do I even know who I am without her gaze? That's the real question. Because when the illusion breaks, when the mirror cracks, and when the mask falls, you're left with yourself. And if you haven't faced that man yet, it's time. He is not soft. He is not bitter. He is not waiting. He is sovereign. He doesn't perform for affection. He doesn't beg to be seen. He sees himself, and that vision is enough. So step into that man. Not the illusion of who you thought you had to be, but the truth of who you've always been beneath the spell. If this resonated, don't scroll. Don't just consume. Confront. Like. Comment. Share this with a brother still trapped in the loop. This wasn't just content. It was your wake-up call. Break the spell, reclaim your power, and never fall for the mask again.